Well, Coach, you take over a defense that was very successful last year. Schematically and philosophically, are there any, can we expect any changes or just a lot of continuity?
In the words of my grandmother, if it ain't broke, don't break it. It'll be some small minor tweaks, but we're gonna do what we do. I think our players have a really good feel of that, and it's just making sure we got the right guys to do it.
If you do make tweaks, is that more personnel driven, or do you have a little bit of your own, what you want to do?
It'll be a combination of the two. Some of it'll be personnel driven, right? Make sure we got the right guys on the field. Some of it'll be based on scheme, but I think spring is a great time to kind of find out if we can do those things or whatnot. So I think the beauty in all of this is the players that we have on our roster, there's a great chance that we're going to have them for the rest of the season. I say that reluctantly, right, because of the transfer portal, but you get to find out what guys can do and what they can't do. And so based off what they can and can't do, we'll kind of take it day by day and go from there. We played a lot more man last year, a lot of man, because we had guys that could do it. And so now it's just, are we a man team? Are we a zone team? Are we a middle field closed pressure team? Like, it's just a combination of us finding out what exactly we're going to do and how we're going to do it based on our personnel.
Aaron, because I know you train your guys in all different types of positions in your secondary, is this the time where you kind of try to pigeonhole, he's a nickel, he's a corner, he's a safety, or do you kind of still let that play out throughout all the way into the fall?
No, we let that play out. It's going to be some guys that rep at corner, they're going to rep at safety, they're going to rep at nickel, because it's some guys that we don't know about yet that maybe they're starting off as safeties and they can easily be moved to corners, or maybe they're starting off at corners, they can easily be moved to nickel or safety. And so I think as a coaching staff, we just got to have an open mind to what is this kid's capabilities, what can and can't he do. And I think once spring ball is over, we'll have a great feel of that. But I think today we don't, and I think it's going to be a great measure stick kind of going into spring, seeing what guys can and can't do.
As a quick follow-up, just the kids that you've coached previously, how do they react to something like that? Which is, it seems like there would be a comfort level in knowing this is my job, when a particular day or a week it could change.
Well, I think how they react to it is based on the results. We're lucky enough to have a bunch of guys potentially be drafted in the secondary, and I think versatility is something that the NFL level loves, and so it's all about how you sell it to them. If you sell it to them that, you guys are really versatile, you're going to play multiple positions. It's going to be some guys, they might just stay at corner, and so it's trying to put our players in the best position to have success. And I think with the relationships that have already been established, they understand that and know that. They know that coach is not going to put me in a position where I can't excel. And so I think just moving forward, like that trust of that relationship allows us to kind of go that route with each young man.
And Brett has talked about wanting to get more out of the pass rush, I guess, in the month and a half or so with Charlie. How have you guys gone about maybe brainstorming how to accomplish that?
Well, it's going to be a number of things that we do up front. Obviously, started with, we have some very, and there's no secret, we're going to be very loaded up front. We're going to be very dominant up front, right? Johnny Newton, Keith Randolph, Gabe Atkins, Seth Coleman, right? T-Rod Edwards. I mean, we got a bunch of guys, a bunch of real dudes up front, and it's kind of like flipping from what we, the back end was loaded last year. We had some good guys up front, but probably a little heavier on the back end. And because we're going to be so dominant up front, we're just going to allow those guys to do what they do and allow their coaches to coach them. And so I think bringing Charlie in, our pass rush specialist, is just a whole new element, man. And it's going to give us a comfort level. At least the guys on the back end cover, it's going to give them a comfort level that they trust and lead those guys up front to get home. And at the end of the day, for me personally, I'll probably rather take a sack over PBU any day of the week, And so it's just giving these guys rules, allow them to play within the confines of our defense and within those rules, and then just letting them be good football players.
In your first year as a career, how much of a relief was it to get those guys up front like Johnny and Keith back?
Oh, man. I mean, listen, it starts up front. This league hasn't changed from the time I was playing, If you have really good interior D linemen, really good guys who can rush the passer, a really good front seven, you have a chance. I don't care what year it is, year in, year out. If you have a good front seven, you have a legitimate chance, no matter who's on the back end. Now, if you have some bona fide guys on the back end as well, obviously that helps. But anytime you got a really good front seven, a really special front seven, I think you have a legitimate shot. And obviously, for me as a first-year coordinator, that was massive in getting these guys to come back.
Coach, in the bowl, you were missing two NFL draftees. You were missing those two guys. What did you see from the guys that jumped in during the bowl preparation and then the game that makes you feel better going forward?
I thought that they shined. I thought that the moment wasn't too big for them. You know, I had a chart in my meeting room of right before we went into fall camp, and I simply spoke to the unit about, at some point in time, right, somebody's going to be called into the line of duty that nobody knows about, right? Don't know when it is. Could be second week of fall camp at that time, could be first game, could be third game, could be last game of the season, right? And for everybody, as our season kind of took place, everything, it changed from week to week sometimes. I mean, for some of the guys, it happened last game of the season. And so just trying to make sure these young men are prepared every single opportunity that they get. But I'm very, very encouraged about our young secondary, man. Like, I am extremely encouraged by them. And you know what? I know we're losing some guys, but like I'm extremely confident in these young men going forward, just based on what I've seen, based on the buy-in. You know, I think prior to going into the season, nobody knew Spoon was going to have that kind of season, right? And then all of a sudden, he was added to the Thorpe Award watch list, and people were like, "Oh, he's a good player." Well, nobody knew that before the season, right? And so, again, it's going to be somebody. It's going to be a couple of guys emerge out of this secondary, out of this defense that nobody is really talking about, and I think that's the great thing about coaching.
Along those lines, Coach, for the youngsters in the secondaries, how important is spring ball, and what's kind of a goal for you? Do you want to come out of the spring with an idea of what the depth chart is going to look like back there?
Yeah, I mean, I think ideally, as you're going through spring and as spring concludes, you want to have a really good feeling of who you can go and play with. But you know, I'm watching cut-ups of last year's spring of guys that weren't even on the roster yet, and they walk in the door in the summer and they play significant minutes for us. You know what I'm saying? And so I think spring ball is massive, especially, you know, when you have a lot of newer faces, you know, and it allows guys to learn our system, to learn our scheme, to know how we do things. I mean, spring ball is everything, right? But there may be some guys that aren't here yet, you know, i.e. the portal, i.e. high school, that could end up being starters for us. I mean, you just don't know until you get into the season. But I'm elated about spring ball. You know, I wish we can do football year round, you know, in terms of doing stuff like this, because I think these young men, you know, they put themselves in a position, right, in the weight room, right, nutritionally, academically, right, to finally after spring break to go out there and showcase their ability.
Matthew Bailey continued to progress as the season went on last year. She continued to grow and grow. What does he bring to the field?
That young man's special. You know, obviously Matthew Bailey out of Moline, right? He is. No one knew that he was going to come on the way he did. Matthew was one of the last young men that we took in last year's recruiting class, and just the way, I mean, like, you just don't know. You just don't know the way these young men are going to progress. But we are. I mean, I am beyond excited about Matt's future, where he's headed, because I think he's wired right, and he's had some great guys ahead of him kind of show him the rope. So he's really been a sponge, and he's kind of taken that next step in terms of leadership to take his game to the next level.
It might not be year-round yet, but this year at least you're able to go from the season to bowl prep to the winter workouts now to spring. What kind of advantage can maybe a little bit of seamless transition be for you guys?
Oh, it's a massive advantage, you know, because I think, right, making it to a bowl game, that gives us, 15 more practices. You know, it allows younger guys who probably hadn't played as much, right, to get a lot more reps. You know, obviously we had some guys sit out in the bowl game, so that was really huge. It was almost like another, like an intro spring, if I might add. But the transition, because of what we do defensively and how we do it, I think it's pretty seamless for us, you know, defensively, you know, because I think we live in a world now to where between new guys coming in, right, whether it's high school or the portal, like you have to be a really good teacher, and then two, you have to allow guys to just use their ability. You know, I think the way we're structured, you know, if we had a new kid walk in today, I can teach him our whole defense in about 15, 20 minutes. Like, just like the meat and potatoes of it. So he can go out there and make calls and get lined up, you know, and I think when you take that approach, now obviously we're doing that on top of having walkthroughs, on top of having meetings, but I think when you can be relatively simple on defense and you can allow guys to use their ability, I don't know, I think it puts us at an advantage just in terms of we teach a lot more offense than we do defense, you know, because we just know how teams are going to attack us, and when guys can anticipate plays coming or understand formation recognition or splits, they're just naturally going to play faster. And so I think those are some of the advantages when you talk about spring ball and when you talk about bowl prep. You know, you talk about off-season workout, because we can spend a lot more time teaching offense.
I mean, I know the winter workouts are kind of Tank's domain, but you get some little time with him. Have you seen maybe any differences, changes, better things because those guys have been engaged for months now?
Not more than anything I've seen in my past. You know, I think there can kind of be like a catch-22 to winter workouts, because some guys are going to crush winter workouts. You know, I can tell you right now, Devin Witherspoon hated winter workouts. He just wasn't a fan of it. But I mean, he did them. He was pretty good at it, but he just wasn't a fan. But when spring ball rolled around, it was time to go. He's a different cat. You know, and so I think winter workouts give these young men an opportunity to learn how we do things. You know, how do we live? How do we properly take care of our body, right? How do we get the proper amount of sleep? You know, obviously being in this conference, being a defensive player, you gotta be big and strong enough to protect yourself. And so I think the main thing is making sure that they're ready to go when spring ball hits, because I think lifting weights is different than playing football. You know, I mean, we want them all to be big, strong, and fast, but at the end of the day, more importantly, we want them to be functional. You know, we want them to be functional football players, and I think Tank has developed a tremendous program, strength and conditioning program, to allow these young men to do that.
Coach, what do you want the identity of your defense to be? Is there one or two things that an Aaron Henry defense is predicated on that you can point to as the identity of the defense?
I want us to be us, right? Our theme this year is B33, right? This is going to be the 133rd defense in school history, right? There has been an expectation set, right? There's been an expectation set that Illinois is supposed to play good defense, right? And expectations, right, it's a privilege to have expectations. And so obviously we're going to close the middle of the field, we're going to get after the quarterback, all that good stuff, man. But I want us to be us, right? What does being us mean? Not beating ourselves, not committing dumb penalties, right? Not doing things off the field that's going to jeopardize our on the field play, right? Being smart, tough, and dependable. And so I think at the end of the day, you guys expect a certain brand of football to be played here defensively, and so do we, you know, and we want to maintain our identity and be fast and physical and play with relentless effort and pursuit. But I think at the end of the day, we want to be us. So B33.
We got time for one more, Coach Henry.
What are your thoughts on where you are linebacker-wise? Two big returners, but you lose Starkey Angelo. It would seem like a young player might be maybe in that mold to step into that. What have you seen from that group there?
Yeah, I mean, they've all been working extremely hard in the weight room. That I'm probably more excited about that unit, just because we did lose Dark, but we got some young guys. We got some young guys behind them that could have played last year. You know, that are really talented players. You know, Kanena Odeluga, right? Dylan Rosiak, Ryan Mead. I mean, we got some Calvin Hart. Obviously, we got some really talented young players behind them that we really feel that's going to help elevate this defense. We truly believe that, and it's going to be, I think, having spring ball is going to give us the opportunity to find out, you know, can they contribute the way Dark did last year. So we're really excited about that.